Burkina Faso was supposed to collapse. At least that was the prediction. A country fighting a war, a country facing sanctions, a country that expelled French military forces, a country that left ECOWAS. Yet 3 years later, the numbers tell a different story. When Captain Ibrahim Traoré took power in September 2022, Burkina Faso's nominal GDP stood at around $18.8 billion. By 2025, it had climbed to an estimated $26.9 billion. That's an increase of roughly 43% in nominal terms. And this happened while the country was dealing with sanctions, political instability, and an ongoing fight against armed groups. Real economic growth, the measure that gives us a better picture of actual economic activity, reached around 4.9% in 2024. And in 2025, estimates put growth between roughly 5.3 and 6.3%, depending on the source. The African Development Bank and the World Bank have also projected continued growth into 2026. But what is driving this growth? Look underground. Look at the gold. Gold production reportedly increased dramatically from around 61 tons in 2024 to 94 tons in 2025. That's more than 30 additional tons in just 1 year. Part of that increase has been linked to the formalization of artisanal mining, bringing more activity into the official economy. And the argument from Traoré's government is simple. If Burkina Faso owns the resources, then Burkina Faso should benefit from those resources. But the story doesn't stop with gold. Grain production also increased significantly, and in a country where food security is directly connected to national security, that matters. The current account deficit also reportedly narrowed sharply from around 5.7% of GDP in 2024 to 2.2% in 2025. The country still faces economic pressure, but the gap is getting smaller, and then there's inflation. Perhaps one of the most striking figures is inflation. In 2025, inflation was reported at around negative 0.5%. In simple terms, prices, on average, were falling rather than rising, and extreme poverty reportedly declined from around 35% in 2022 to 30% in 2025. 5 percentage points. But here's where we have to be careful. Burkina Faso is not suddenly a country without problems. Far from it. More than 2 million people remain internally displaced because of the conflict. Armed groups continue to operate in parts of the country. And the banking sector is under pressure, with non-performing loans increasing. There is also another important point. GDP growth alone does not prove that every government policy is responsible for the improvement. Burkina Faso is a major gold producer. When global gold prices rise, that can boost the value of economic output even without major changes in domestic productivity. So the numbers need context, but the trajectory matters. And that's where the Burkina Faso story becomes interesting. The country was expected by many observers to face severe economic consequences after breaking with traditional, regional, and Western partners. Instead, the economy has continued to grow. Agricultural production has increased, gold production has expanded, inflation has fallen, and poverty indicators have improved. At the same time, the government has pushed a message of economic sovereignty, keeping more control over Burkina Faso's natural resources and development priorities. So the real question isn't, has Burkina Faso solved all its problems? It hasn't. The real question is, can Burkina Faso turn this economic momentum into lasting development? Can it improve security? Can it create jobs? Can it support farmers and small businesses? Can it reduce displacement? And most importantly, can economic growth actually improve the lives of ordinary Burkinabe people? Because GDP numbers look impressive on paper, but development is ultimately measured by what people experience in their everyday lives. Burkina Faso is still fighting. It is still struggling. It is still rebuilding. But one thing is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. The predicted collapse has not happened. The country is attempting a different path, a path built around sovereignty, a path built around its own resources, a path whose results will ultimately be judged by the people of Burkina Faso. The West predicted collapse. Burkina Faso chose construction, and now the world is watching. This is Griot Lens TV.